There is one sin that God cannot forgive. Not because he lacks the power, but because we refuse to open the door. And today, I want to share with you the most profound truth about forgiveness that can transform your life forever. My dear brothers and sisters, welcome. Today we gather to explore one of the most powerful and liberating teachings that our Holy Father has given us about forgiveness. In a world filled with division, resentment, and pain, these words come as a beacon of hope, reminding us that healing is always possible when we open our hearts to mercy. This message is not just theological theory. It is practical wisdom that can change everything about how we live, how we love, and how we find peace in a broken world. The Pope tells us a story that touches the very core of our human experience. He speaks of a woman who came to him after a Mass, her eyes filled with tears. She had carried a burden for 23 years. 23 years of anger, resentment, and pain. Her sister had betrayed her trust in a way that seemed unforgivable. They had not spoken since that day. 2 decades of silence. 2 decades of family gatherings missed. 2 decades of nieces and nephews growing up as strangers. 2 decades of birthdays, holidays, weddings, and funerals where they stood on opposite sides of the room, pretending the other didn't exist. She asked the Holy Father a question that so many of us have asked in our own hearts. How can I forgive when the wound is so deep? How can I forget when the memory haunts me every day? How can I move forward when justice has not been served? How can I let go when what happened was truly, genuinely wrong? The Pope looked at her with those compassionate eyes that have consoled millions and said something that changed her life. He said, "My daughter, you are not being asked to forget. You are not being asked to pretend the pain never happened. You are not being asked to say that what was done to you was acceptable. You are being asked to free yourself from the prison of unforgiveness. Because right now, you are the one in chains, not your sister. You are the one suffering every single day, reliving that moment of betrayal over and over again. You are the one giving away your peace, your joy, your very life to someone who may not even think about you anymore." This is the heart of the message. Forgiveness is not a gift we give to those who hurt us. Forgiveness is the gift we give to ourselves. When we hold on to resentment, we become prisoners of our own bitterness. We replay the offense over and over in our minds like a movie that never stops. We imagine conversations that will never happen. We rehearse speeches we will never give. We fantasize about revenge that will never satisfy. We create elaborate scenarios in which the other person finally understands, finally apologizes, finally suffers as we have suffered. And in all of this mental and emotional torment, we give away our peace, our joy, our very lives to someone who may have moved on completely. The Holy Father reminds us of the powerful words of Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew. Peter came to Jesus and asked, "Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother who sins against me? Up to 7 times?" Peter thought he was being generous. In the rabbinic tradition of that time, you were required to forgive someone 3 times. Peter was offering to more than double that. He expected Jesus to praise his generosity. But Jesus answered, "I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. This is not mathematics. This is not a counting game where you stop at number 78. This is infinity. This is a call to make forgiveness not an occasional act, but a way of life, a fundamental posture of the heart." But why is forgiveness so difficult? Why do we struggle so much with something that Jesus commands and that we know will set us free? The Pope explains it with profound wisdom. He says that we struggle to forgive because we confuse justice with vengeance. We think that forgiving means the other person gets away with what they did. We think it means we are weak, that we are doormats, that we are saying what happened was acceptable or insignificant. We think forgiveness means there are no consequences, no boundaries, no protection for ourselves. But this is not what forgiveness means at all. Forgiveness means we release our right to personal vengeance and place justice in God's hands. It means we acknowledge the wrong clearly and honestly. It means we may set boundaries to protect ourselves from future harm. It means we may need to separate ourselves from toxic relationships. But it also means we refuse to let bitterness poison our souls. We choose freedom over bondage. We choose life over slow spiritual death. We choose to be defined by God's love rather than by someone else's sin against us. The Pope shares another powerful truth that cuts to the heart of our hypocrisy. He says that when we refuse to forgive, we become like the unforgiving servant in Jesus' parable. This servant owed his master an enormous debt, equivalent to millions of dollars in today's currency. There was no possible way he could ever repay it. He begged for mercy, and the master, moved with compassion, forgave the entire debt. But then that same servant went out and found a fellow servant who owed him a tiny amount, just a few dollars. And when that man couldn't pay, the forgiven servant grabbed him by the throat and had him thrown into prison. When the master heard about this, he was furious and said, "You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not also have had mercy on your fellow servant, just as I had mercy on you?" We are that servant. We forget the countless times God has forgiven us. We forget our own desperate need for mercy. We set ourselves up as judges, when we ourselves stand in need of judgment and grace every single day. We demand perfection from others while excusing our own failures. We hold others to standards we cannot meet ourselves. My brothers and sisters, think about this for a moment. Really think about it. Every single day, we fall short of God's glory. Every single day, we need God's mercy. We speak words we should not speak. We think thoughts we should not think. We harbor resentments, jealousies, and pride. We fail to love as we should love. We ignore the poor. We judge others. We complain and gossip. We are selfish with our time and resources. And yet, God's mercy is new every morning. God's compassion never fails. God never says, "Enough is enough, I am done with you, you have used up all your chances." He always welcomes us back with open arms, like the father running to embrace the prodigal son. And if God, who is perfect and holy and without sin, can forgive us who are imperfect and sinful and broken, how can we refuse to forgive our fellow human beings who are just as flawed as we are? The Pope says this is the great contradiction of the unforgiving heart. We demand from God what we refuse to give to others. We want mercy for ourselves but judgment for everyone else. We want understanding for our mistakes but condemnation for theirs. We want second chances and third chances and infinite chances for ourselves, but one strike and you're out for those who hurt us. But here is the beautiful truth that the Holy Father wants us to understand. When we forgive, we become most like God. We reflect the divine nature. We participate in the very life of Christ, who hung on the cross in agony and said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." In that moment of ultimate betrayal, ultimate pain, ultimate injustice, when Jesus had every right to call down legions of angels to destroy his enemies, he chose forgiveness. He chose mercy. He chose love. And he calls us to do the same, not because it is easy, but because it is the only path to true freedom and peace. The Pope reminds us that forgiveness is not a feeling. It is a decision. It is an act of the will. We may not feel like forgiving. The emotions may still be raw. The anger may still be present. The hurt may still throb like an open wound. But we can still choose to forgive. We can still say, with God's grace, I release this person. I release this offense. I choose freedom over bitterness. I choose life over death. I choose to stop drinking the poison of resentment and expecting the other person to die. And when we make that choice, something miraculous begins to happen. The feelings eventually follow the decision. The burden begins to lift, perhaps slowly at first, but steadily. The chains begin to break. The prison door swings open. The Holy Father also teaches us that forgiveness is a process, not an event. It is not something we do once and it is finished forever. Sometimes we must forgive the same offense 77 times in our own hearts. We wake up and the anger is back. We see something that reminds us of the hurt and the resentment floods in again. This is normal. This is human. The key is to keep choosing forgiveness. Keep releasing the offense. Keep praying for the grace to let go. Keep asking God to heal the wound. Layer by layer, day by day, choice by choice, true forgiveness takes root in our hearts. This is the most powerful message about forgiveness. It is not easy. It is not instantaneous. It is a journey, sometimes a long and difficult journey. But it is a journey that leads to resurrection. It leads to new life. It leads to peace that surpasses all understanding. The woman who spoke to the Pope. She made the decision that day to begin the journey of forgiveness. She forgave her sister in her heart, even though the feelings were still complicated. She called her that very evening. The conversation was awkward and painful at first. There were tears. There were difficult truths spoken. But there was also the beginning of healing. And today, years later, they have rebuilt their relationship. 23 years of pain transformed by one moment of grace, followed by many moments of choosing forgiveness over and over again. My dear friends, the Holy Father leaves us with this challenge, this invitation, this opportunity for freedom. Who do you need to forgive today? What burden of resentment are you carrying that is slowly destroying your peace and stealing your joy? What prison of unforgiveness are you locked in, thinking you are punishing someone else, when you are only punishing yourself? Is it a parent who failed you? A spouse who betrayed you? A friend who abandoned you? A child who disappointed you? A colleague who wronged you? Or perhaps even yourself, carrying guilt and shame for your own failures? Today is the day of salvation. Today is the day of freedom. Today is the day to choose forgiveness. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel like it. Not when the other person apologizes or admits they were wrong. Today. Right now. In this moment. You have the power, with God's grace, to open the prison door and walk into freedom. May God bless you with the courage to forgive. May He bless you with the strength to let go of the heavy burden you have been carrying. May He bless you with the peace that comes from knowing you are loved unconditionally, forgiven completely, and free eternally. Go in peace, and carry this message of mercy to a world that desperately needs it. Be the living proof that forgiveness is possible, that healing is real, and that God's love is more powerful than any hurt we have ever experienced.